Hello, Princeton King.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for coming on. So I met you. It's probably been, I first kind of met you tangentially at, I think it was Next Level Pro. You were announcing.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. And I could tell, I could tell by the way you announced. I remember thinking in my head, because I served a mission for my church in Indiana, which is
Hmm.
very kind of the north of the Bible Belt, a lot of apostolic Pentecostal and Baptist churches. And
Hmm.
just the way you announced, I was like, he sounds to me like sounds to me
Yeah.
like a preacher. And the more I learned about you, I realized you are a preacher.
Yes, sir. Justin Caton, who I love so much, the boss of the CEO of Next Level Pro Wrestling. Man, he said, "Man, when you get up there, you use your preacher voice." This
Yeah,
has been a dream. A dream come true.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I'll tell you a little something about Justin. So there were when I got involved in the pro wrestling scene, I want to say 97, 98. Right
Okay.
right down the street from Next Level Pro was Pro I Am Wrestling back in that time. And
Yeah.
old school Oliver John was the trainer. I'm sure Justin's probably told the story.
Yeah. You told that part. Yes.
So I walk in there and I'm there for about 2 months before it closes down. The one of the first guys I met, well, there were two guys that I remember specifically meeting first day, Alexis Derevko and Justin Caton. And
Oh man.
yeah, and I'll tell you the cool thing, I don't know if Justin even remembers this, but so Ollie told me the first week, he was like, we train, I think it was like Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays or Thursdays. But then he said, and then we come in on Saturday, like at 10 a.m. or whatever, and we're here till like whatever time. So I thought he meant like all day. And so I told my mom, I was like, drop me off on Saturday, drop me off at 10. Don't come back and pick me up till 3. And so,
Wow.
so I get out there and everybody bails. Justin was the only one who stayed. He's like, I'll stick around. And we just sat there watching wrestling movies together. I don't know if he remembers that, but I really appreciated that because otherwise I was going to just
Wow.
go to the warehouse by myself. So
Man.
yeah, and
This is awesome.
it is just so cool to see that all these years later, 25 years later, he's running a successful pro wrestling promotion.
Whew.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, this level has taken off. It's amazing what's just taking place there at next level and Justin, yeah, he is. I try not to get to. I get emotional. I'm gonna let you know. So I'm trying to
That's
be
okay.
cool. I'm trying. Justin is just he made my dream come true. Him, Michael Shaw, the main event, Michael Shaw, C.J. Dirt, Matt Freeman. Those it was really those four right there that gave me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do. Because I was supposed to be an interviewer, and they said, "Well, they need a ring announcer." I said, "Well, I'll try it." And I've been doing it on 3 years now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you definitely bring a great like I said, I've always appreciated the kind of I know you're kind of have a center in the Baptist church, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And so I've always appreciated the way, like I said, apostolic Pentecostal and Baptist ministers preach because it gets your attention.
Oh yeah.
And you got my attention as the announcer, and it's cool to see because when I first went in there to see Next Level, Justin didn't have any of that stuff up there. Like he hadn't really. It was like one of the first shows. I mean, it was just kind of like a bare warehouse with a ring in it,
Right.
and to see now he's really turned that into a legit. I mean, it's a fun place to go. It's a cool place to work. You know.
Well, you know what's amazing about you? This about I never got to tell you this. It's about you.
Okay.
Because when you came, when I seen you a couple times. We would say, "Hey, how you doing?" That was it. That's it. You
Right.
know, when we saw each other next level. See, that's a big tall guy right there. I thought when I thought about wrestling, and then like yeah, years later on a social media post, I saw you wrestling. Like, oh, he is a wrestler.
Yeah, yeah. I took a long break. Yeah, I took a long break. I ran a wrestling promotion from 2009 to about 2013. And
Whoa.
yeah, and we did a lot of cool stuff, a lot of charity stuff, but ended up hooking up with New Japan Wrestling and Yeah, New Japan Pro and hooking up
Whoa.
act and doing a bunch of cool stuff like that. And then I got done with law school and started my job, and I just didn't have the time to continue it. But it's really
Nice.
cool to see because when I started doing wrestling, Northern California, I mean, you were lucky to get 100 people at a show. You know, it was
Really?
it was real small. And then right around the time Hood Slam came around, and Hood Slam really started blowing up, and it kind of was one of those situations of, rising tides rises all ships, right? And so as soon as
Right.
they started really blowing up, and then also with the advent of AEW, it really blew up, and now indie wrestling is kind of on an upswing.
Oh my goodness.
And so now everybody's drawing big numbers, and it's at least bigger numbers than we were back then. I mean, back then
Right.
I would draw 300-400 people, and people would be like, "That's insane." Now it's common to draw 200-300, and
Wow.
that's great for everybody. It's great for everybody because everyone's getting a lot of promotion and getting a lot of looks. Now so tell me, have you always been a wrestling fan?
Oh man. I'll give you this. I've been a fan. Found out. I've been a fan since I was 2 years old. In San Francisco. They said my great grandmother, the late Gladys Brayboy,
Mm-hmm.
basically raised me. Yeah, I was basically raised. My parents worked all the time, so my great grandmother put me in front of a TV. I guess it was Macho Man
Mm.
in 19. It had to be 1984. It was Macho Man, and he was in the match. I don't know what match it was, and I sat there and watched it, and then the whole wrestling program, she said I did not move. They said I didn't move. I just sat there and just watched the wrestling and everything. And so every time it would come on, it would get my attention. And then after that, I got rested. So my uncle it was my uncle Vince Abrams, um, who was murdered in San Francisco in 1995. I don't talk too much about it, but he took me, him and my dad, my stepfather, but I call my dad because I have his last name.
Mm.
Biological last name is Dozier, but I have my stepfather's last name, which is King. But my stepfather, my father, he took me to my first him and my uncle Vince. They took me to my first wrestling match out the Cow Palace in San
Oh,
Francisco, California. So I'm a Cow Palace kid. I was every
yeah.
time they came, I was there.
Who do you remember? Who the main event was of the show you saw?
The I don't remember the main event. I do remember this. Hercules Hernandez
Oh yeah.
had a tag team partner. They came out with a chain. He wore black trunks. This is
Mm.
what I remember. He wore black trunks and he came out, and that's when he was heel and
Mm.
everything. And I remember I don't remember the main event. I had to be about 5 years old.
Yeah.
I still remember that to this day.
Wow, that's awesome, man. I remember my aunt took me to my first event at the Arco Arena,
Yes,
and
sir.
the main event. I don't remember any other match on the card, but I remember the main event was the British Bulldogs against the Dream Team, Greg Valentine and Bruce Beefcake in a steel cage.
Wow. Oh,
And I lost my voice. I think I had to have been 4 or 5 years old, and I lost my
that's
voice.
every time.
Yeah,
That's every time I used to
yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's so interesting how wrestling grabs you. It's funny you bring up the Macho Man. Last night I was driving home, I was playing laser tag with my kids, and I drove them home, and we were talking about wrestling. And
Hmm.
I was telling them how different it was back in the day. And we were talking about how, Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man, they just didn't understand. They're like, "You mean they were bigger than Roman Reigns?" And I go, "Yeah, let me show you this promo." And I just showed them like promos of the Macho Man. And they're
Hmm.
like, "That guy is crazy." And I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah.
it is." And that's why we loved it. It was
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
life.
It
So
was naturally him.
yeah, yeah,
That's the crazy part. It was naturally him. How
yeah,
it's promos, the way he talked. That was actually him.
yeah. Now tell me, you mentioned, so you grew up in the Bay Area. Did you grow up in San Francisco proper or somewhere else?
San Francisco and Daly City at the same
Oh,
time.
oh, okay, Daly City, yeah.
Hmm.
So, and we were talking a little bit off air. You mentioned you didn't feel like your upbringing was particularly rough. I mean, tell me more about your upbringing. You mentioned your stepdad, who basically was your father, and your mother worked
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
Uh, how about your
they both
siblings?
did. I'm sorry.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, you, I have a brother, Daniel King. I love to death. He's here in Stockton.
Hmm.
He's a warehouse worker. He's doing good. And my baby brother, I believe you know who my baby brother is.
Who's that?
He wrestles for Next Level Pro Wrestling. The young gunner Chucky D. That's my baby
Oh,
brother.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's
Oh, nice.
taking off. He
Yeah,
he's teaming with Vargas, right? Tony Vargas, and everything. And
yeah,
I love Tony. I
yeah,
love Tony. That's a whole other subject. We'll get if you get to that. That's fine. But Tony Vargas has been a major blessing to me, my brother, to the whole wrestling school. Man, he doesn't get enough credit that he deserves. I'm sorry, I had to say it. I had
yeah.
to get that off my chest. He does not get enough credit that he deserves.
Well,
Tony's a great guy.
well, there's obviously something going on because I see all the pictures and they have a ton of students.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh, that thing has exploded.
Yeah,
It has exploded. The last event, it was so we're in so dire need of a building. Hopefully, now that we're working with the city of Sacramento, hopefully they can get us a new building. I mean, I'm grateful for we're grateful for where we're at. We're grateful for the door that was open for us. It's not that we don't like the place because we love the place, but we don't have enough room. There were chairs lined up on the outside
yeah,
of the
yeah.
building.
It's
It's too many people.
I remember talking to Justin at the last event I was at, and I remember telling him, like, good problem to have, you know?
Yeah, yes,
It's
yes,
it's
yes.
it's better than the alternative of having too big a place with not enough people showing up. I mean,
Exactly,
it's
exactly.
as someone another thing I ran I ran a wrestling training school for a little while out of a
Okay,
it's hard to get people, it's not easy. So the fact that
right.
he's been able to get so many students and not only get them, but
Mm.
they consistently show up is huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, and I get sometimes the jealousy part of me because I want to go to training and everything. I work for Tesla factory in
Yeah.
Fremont, California, and I
Mhm.
work 12-hour shifts
Yeah.
all the time and stuff. And so it burns me out. Number one. And then two, the school's a little far out. Sacramento. Well, Sacramento's not that much of a drive, but then because we have to have a balance between family,
Mhm.
have a balance between work, and plus my dream of the wrestling business.
Yeah.
But and then ministry. So I try to balance everything out and everything and stuff. But is my love in professional wrestling? Oh, most definitely. My it is there. And some days a lot of times I'm always working on practice nights. I'm always working.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny you bring that up, the balance because I mean, I feel you, man. I'm doing this podcast, I'm wrestling.
Mhm.
I'm an attorney and I'm a busy trial lawyer, so I mean, always
Nice.
got something going on. Got my kids, all that
Right.
stuff. And I heard someone one time, actually a leader from my church, who asked, how do you get a good balance? He said, "There's no such thing as balance. You're just one of those jugglers with dishes on poles, and you're kind of
Okay.
thing." And he's like, "And every once in a while, something needs a spin, and you're just spinning the thing that needs a spin." And
Wow.
I think that's a great analogy because yeah, like you're juggling family. I mean, you got kids,
Right.
right? You got a
Yes,
wife.
I do.
You're juggling that, you're juggling your ministry, you're juggling a demanding job, and then you have this dream to be a part of the pro wrestling scene. You got to balance all that, and it sounds like you're balancing it okay so far.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is getting better. It's really getting better.
Yeah,
And stuff. And I'm just grateful for the journey. My not it's not to brag, but I look at my oldest son graduated. He's in college. He wants to own his own automotive shop as an automotive technician. Going to be ASC certified. He's working on all that. He knows cars like crazy. He knows how to work on
Yeah.
cars and do that stuff. All I did was just teach him how to change a tire. That's all I did.
Mm.
That's all
Yeah.
I did. I taught him how to change a tire, and he started. When my wife and them broke down in Sacramento, coming at the Stockton. Um, I was saying, okay, I'll be on my way out there because I was not too far out there anyways. For some reason, I was just out that way, and my wife called me. I said, all right, we were on the way home. I said, what you talking about? I thought you had a flat tire. She said, no, Zion went out there and changed the tire. I said, oh shoot.
Yeah. Nice.
he, he did that, and his friends broke down. Changed their tire, and then he just started looking at brakes. He started looking at everything else, and started learning stuff on YouTube. And then he just loved it. Then my daughter, I'll give this quick history. My 15-year-old daughter, they said that she's autistic, but she's high functioning. She has
Mm,
Asperger's. This is the same
mm.
as Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Autism, and she has a 4.0. She's been having a 4.0 for years, and
Oh,
she's
wow.
15 years old.
Wow. So tell me
Yeah.
now, dealing with that. So what are some of I don't know a lot about autism. I know a little bit about the spectrum.
Okay.
So what is it? I understand what high functioning is, but tell me, does she have some issues with social cues, or what is it that
Yeah.
she has issues with? Okay. So she
Uh, the weird part is she's like really overcame a lot of it. She didn't really like a lot of people touching her
mm, mhm,
and everything. And like now, it doesn't bother her.
mhm,
Depending on, like, if you were to shake her hand, she'll shake your hand, and
mhm,
she'll talk to you. She'll talk if you want to talk to her. And so she's more social than what she used to be, but
mm,
she still has her guard up in like with certain people. Like you, she'll talk to you, but certain
mhm.
people, if she's just not feeling you, she's just
Yeah.
not. She's not gonna talk to you. She's just like look at you like, okay, okay, starting to creep me out. That's how she
Yeah.
is.
Well, I've noticed I've understood that some people with autism, they're very sensitive to like the I guess the positive or negative energy in the room.
Oh
Like
yeah.
so like if somebody gives off a bad vibe, it can set them off. And also I do know that there's something about patterns that are important.
Hmm.
Like if they have a certain pattern of how they do certain things,
Yeah.
that if that gets disrupted, it can be
Oh,
problem.
it can be bad.
Yeah.
It could be bad. But with her, and that's one thing we try not to disrupt her patterns because,
Mhm.
like I said, she's, University of the Pacific, Stockton's already looking at her right now.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Well, you're
yeah.
you're looking at an alumni. I went to McGeorge, so that's how I
Oh,
went
really? Oh,
to law
wow.
school. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good school.
yeah. So that's for music,
Oh,
because she's a musician. She plays trumpet. She plays drums. She plays piano. She just picked up a guitar last year. She's learning that too.
uh,
So
does
she's trying to
so
learn everything.
does she play for the church?
Yes, she does. She's our drummer.
Oh, nice. Because so yeah, I played my grandfather was a music teacher, and so
Hmm.
I played the trombone, and my son's
Nice.
a big time guitar player. My daughter, she's a drummer, and they yeah, it's music is such a good way. It also helps a lot with like surprisingly both of them are really good at math because of and
Yeah.
I think music has something to do with that, having to keep a beat, having to and it helps them with
Hmm.
dancing. You know what I mean? Having to
Hmm.
understand a rhythm, it's really helps them. So well, that's great. And you said you had a third, right?
Yes, my baby boy Junior. He's 8 years. He's 8 years old.
Hmm.
He has autism,
Hmm.
and he's is just a lot different. He's social now. But you're not gonna always understand what he's saying.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
text is verbal, and um he's a part like of a certain class for like autistic kids and
Hmm.
everything. But he likes to he, he he's a great kid though. He's a great kid. He loves wrestling.
Oh,
He loves
awesome.
he loves going to we had the practices, or we go up there. Justin, and all them. They'll let them go into the ring. Even my nieces, and different ones, they
Nice.
get in the ring. After the practice is over or whatever. I know, like Tony Vargas is in the ring, or somebody in the ring. They'll go mess with him, and he'll go play with them a little bit and stuff.
Nice.
different wrestlers and stuff. Yeah.
So
So,
then
but
you're,
he.
so real quickly, your daughter, it sounds like what you're saying, and forgive me if I get the lingo wrong, but it sounds like your daughter is in just kind of the class with the neurotypical kids. Like she's functioning
Oh,
enough. She goes to regular classes in high school and stuff, but you're
oh, she's in AP
oh, she
classes.
is. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, she's in AP class. She doesn't. She's not in part of no special ed program or anything like that. It's funny because they in the first grade they had started her off in that, and then they tried to go to the fifth grade or something like that to keep her, but it just wasn't working. It was just
Yeah.
working. She felt she wasn't learning anything, and she was too how can I say, she was high functioning, and she knew a lot. And so, matter of fact, let me go here. The doctor had gave my daughter medication for autism. My God. And oh God, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Gave her medication, and she was kind of tripping out a little bit. And me and my wife prayed. And I'm going back to, about the Lord and everything. We prayed. And we took her off the medication. And when we took her off the medication, she just excelled.
Hmm.
She climbed. I mean, she just kept climbing and kept climbing and kept climbing, kept climbing. And my cousin, um, Anthony Bryant out of Los Angeles came and spoke at my church. And he told us, he said, there's nothing wrong with her.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with the girl. Doctors may say one thing, but God will always say another thing, which is true. He will
Hmm.
always say, because when people give up on you, God won't give up on
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And I can tell that God plays a major role in your life. Tell me,
Oh man.
we were talking a little bit off air, and you mentioned that you kind of grew up in church, but it really didn't grab onto you till like the early
No.
2000s. Perhaps you can
Yeah.
tell me how that kind of came about.
Okay. I grew up at the Greater New Jerusalem Baptist Church in San Francisco, California, under the leadership of Pastor Eric Gillette. He's still alive and doing good. He's like another father. There's another story behind that too. He's
Mm,
like another father to me, and I still talk to him to this day. He kind of took a different route, when it comes a different route in a way. But we're still good, and I'm gonna keep it like that. But and there was nothing wrong with what he taught. There was nothing. I was just, I was in my own world. I was just trying to go, hang with my friends, and had my porno issue.
mm,
I, I had just don't, dealt with bullying, getting bullied because I
mm,
was a fan of wrestling.
mm,
School, I went through the bullying, oh man, and stuff.
mm,
But the problem is I allowed it. That's the issue. I allowed it.
mm.
I really stand
What,
up for
what,
myself.
what
Now
do you,
you don't
hold
want to do
hold
that.
on, let me stop you right there. What do you mean by
No,
you allowed it? Can you tell me more about that?
I never wanted to get in trouble.
Mm,
I've always been a person that don't want to get in trouble, don't want to go no juvenile hall, I've never been there. Don't get me wrong, jail, juvenile hall, nothing like that. And I've never wanted to get in trouble. So a lot of times I just didn't defend myself, or I just walked away. Feel like, you're there watching wrestling. You need to be doing this. You need to be playing football, and even family did it to me. Just made fun of me behind my desire for wrestling and wanting to be in the business.
mm,
Um, Road Warrior, I'll never forget this. Road Warrior, I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about that, but if you, I don't know. I kind of it. No, I can tell it. Give it a little bit.
yeah.
The Road Warriors and Dave Hebner came to, I don't know. Oh well, whatever. Came to
Yeah.
the Cow Palace to do autographs.
Uh-huh.
And me and my cousin Richard, I think my bring his name, Richard McKinney. We was big fans of it. of the Road Warriors. We were fans and everything. I love Demolition. That was my team. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
Demolition.
Yeah.
Axel's back. They don't get enough credit. But we like the Road Warriors too. And he would be Animal, I would be Hawk. And so, just we was play around as kids and stuff, and everything. And so when it came to the autograph session, I went to I told Robert Hawk, I said, I'm a big fan of you, me and my cousin and everything, and I'm so happy to get an autograph. I said, what? And I said, what? And I asked a question. I didn't know, I was young, and then he said, I said, what can I do to get in the wrestling business? He said, I don't know. Ask your cousin, Ahmed Johnson. I was like, ask my cousin, Ahmed Johnson. I was like, I don't know. And I said, no, I don't know him. So how I get in there? He said, ask your cousin of The Rock. I'm like, okay, so I see where this is going.
Right.
I said,
Yeah.
okay, so that broke me. And then Dave Hebner back there laughing and everything, with them and stuff. So okay, not
Mm.
knowing I'm in the wrestling business now,
Yeah.
but I didn't hold that against them because people are just going to be people,
Yeah.
and I'm
Did you,
always having
you know,
forgiving.
I want to ask you a little bit about that if you don't mind, because it's interesting what you say. And I wonder culturally if this is something that's different. Like for example, you said you never wanted to get in trouble. You never wanted to go to juvenile hall.
Hmm.
Were you in an area where like people around you were going? Because like for me in
Oh
my
heck yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? This is might be like just a cultural difference because for me, like I I also never like I got into trouble, but I didn't want to get into a lot of trouble. But
Right.
it never occurred to me to think I might go to juvenile hall. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And like,
Right.
and you're sitting here and you're thinking as a kid, like I'm I don't want to go to juvenile hall. I don't want to get in that kind of trouble. And
Right.
so uh tell me what you think because you said you'd never been. Sounds like people around you had
Oh
been.
heck yeah.
What was different about your upbringing that got you away from that, you think?
I had a praying family. And
Mm,
there's nothing else to say about it. I mean, and I mean that, the respect, I had a praying family. My mom prayed. Dad, oh my God. My stepfather, I call him my dad because he basically raised me, was on fire for the Lord.
mm,
And then my grandfather was a deacon, grandmother was an usher, great grandmother taught me how to pray.
yeah.
and so and so a lot of it came from just having a praying family and then also never wanting to disappoint them.
Mm, mhm,
I've
mhm,
always been the type of person who I've always wanted to be accepted by my family, even though now it's not really the same like it
mhm,
used to. I kind of cut some of my family off.
mm,
Um, Being honest with you, I love people and I love people and everything. But if like I said, I'm 41 years old, and if you're gonna keep being disrespectful towards me, I have to set some boundaries.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
And I gotta tell you from my perspective, I got a lot of respect for that because it is the hardest thing in my like I
oh
work on it. It's the hardest thing to hold those boundaries with people you love,
yes, yes,
because
yes,
like you said, you want to be accepted. They're your tribe, right?
yes,
And
yes.
but yeah, keeping those boundaries when people are hurting you, disrespecting your family, hurting your kids, like
Right.
at some point you got to say, "Hey, I love you, but I got to love you from afar."
Exactly. Because what got me was my wife. My
Mm,
wife told me, she said, I don't like the way like certain family member how they try to have like this bully mentality toward me and all this certain stuff, and she doesn't like it, and the kids don't like it.
yeah.
Even though we could be joking around or whatever, but
Mm,
sometimes it come as too disrespectful
mm,
and
mhm.
everything, and my wife just couldn't take it, and I really had to look at it like, oh, that is very disrespectful.
Yeah.
How I'm getting treated, and so I just like had to cut some people off,
It's
and
funny.
that's just the way it is.
It sounds like your family sounds very similar to mine. Sometimes like I'll tell you the story. We we had some people from our church over for I think it was like a Thanksgiving dinner or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
our family is the type that like there's nothing sacred. Like we just make fun of each other. Like we just poke fun at each other. It doesn't
Same
matter
here.
what, it doesn't matter. Like somebody got divorced, we joke about it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's it's kind of
Right.
one of these things. Somebody has a problem with, oh yeah, that someone's a recovering drug addict. We joke about the fact that they were on
Yeah.
drugs.
No filter. No filter.
There's no filters. And so I remember going to a church, like a leadership church thing, and someone was saying, my dad and I were both there. We were going back and forth at each other, and the bishop was like, I bet Sunday dinner at your house is probably pretty rough. And the guy who'd been there, he's like, bro, it's brutal. He's like, we're just like, what? And so it just
Right.
reminds me of that. Someone who's a little more sensitive, like my kids were a little, like when they were younger, were a little more sensitive. And
Mhm.
I had to explain to them, like, you got to understand, like, grandpa and Uncle Zach are just,
Yeah.
they're just the way they show love. If they're not making fun of you, then there's a problem. You know
There's
what
a pro. Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell
Exactly.
me about that. Yeah. So tell me now more about, so you mentioned, it sounds like you grew up in the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also mentioned that you struggled with pornography.
Yes, I did.
When did that come about? Was that with like the
I
advent of the
was.
internet or even before that?
I think it was in the sixth grade.
Oh, okay. So this
It
is
was in the.
before you're younger than me. So this is before the internet. Like this is back in the like
Oh yeah. This
you
is
had to
the.
go to the
This is
video
the
store behind the
alpha
big
beta.
you're like it's one of those things where you had to actively go out and look for it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It was alpha beta. If
Yeah.
you VHS and at that time, there. Oh God. It was a Home Alone movie. Was I had played. But it finished. But I had to stop it, and then next it was a little pornography movie. I'm like, whoa, what is this? What is
Oh
this?
man.
And I guess they tried to record over it, but it was too late. I saw it, I got interested, and
Mm,
then I ended up developing an addiction after that. And that's why I tell people, be careful what you allow in your house. Be
mm,
careful what you allow into your eye gate, into your ear gate,
mm,
because that can become an issue for you. And I struggled with it, man, for a long time. Even as I started preaching and the gospel of Jesus Christ and um, evangelizing, it was a struggle. It was a fight. When and then when I got married, it wasn't. Thank God, it wasn't really a fight or struggle too much because I have a good wife. Thank God. Who married with 16 years, but it's still sometimes you still would have those. Instagram could be a big hindrance. Facebook can too. Sometimes you have these people have these little scams like on your story, and they're like it's like somebody then hacked the page, and they'll show like a little pornographic type pic or whatever, and
mm,
that could get to you. But I but the thing about it is though, you know, I learned like there's people like Pastor Alan Parr. He talked about overcoming pornography. I watched his podcast, and I watched different ones, and one of the biggest things I just had to not stop just cold turkey and just and biblically what we would do, we would fast. I would fast and pray,
mm,
and that's what like killed a lot of that. And
mm,
then, not to change the subject, I also in 2016 I struggled with depression and anxiety,
mm,
and doctor had put me on Xanax. I
mm,
didn't like the way it was,
mm,
and then I was talking to the Lord. I said, God, I don't want to be like this. And I felt the Holy Spirit tell me, literally said, you need to fast and pray. I fasted and prayed. Kept doing my 5 o'clock in the morning. I would say ritual, but getting up, reading the Word. You'll never get enough of the Word of God. And I just kept doing that. Next, the voices in my head stopped. Now I help people that struggle with depression and anxiety because people have to realize that it's a symptom. If you
mm,
can recognize that it's a symptom, and you read the symptoms of it, is you're more better to overcome it. Because like when your mind is constantly speaking, constantly talking, okay, you're like, okay, that's just a symptom. So you just let it run its course, but you're not. It's like it's there, but you're not really paying attention to it. If you understand what I'm saying, it's
I
there
do,
going off.
I do understand what you're saying, and it sounds like what you're saying is that well, it sounds like what you're saying is yeah, you know, you have situational depression or anxiety where you have something goes on and you're down, but if you keep kind of pushing through it and
Yeah,
pray and rely on God,
yeah, I
is that
did, and it left.
yeah.
I've I haven't had a anxiety attack since 2016.
Wow. So tell me now, you know, we'll go back to the porn thing, I'm sure, but with regard to the depression and the anxiety, was there an event that caused it, or did it just all of a
Yes,
sudden come on? Okay. Do you want
yes.
to talk about what the event was that started it?
2016, April 1st, 2016. Well, before that, my cousin-in-law got she died. She had died, and she was pregnant.
Mm,
She was pregnant, and it was a lot of guilt on my part.
mm,
And I don't say I struggle with that still because I even told her mom one time, and her sister, I just regret that I didn't reach out when they reached out to me.
mm,
I wasn't a pastor at the time. Pastor Floyd, the late Pastor Floyd Gray, he passed away. The pastor that's of the church that I pastor in now. Um, they had reached out to me, and she was just having her little struggles and everything that she was dealing with, and she was pregnant. And then next, one morning, I get a phone call that she had passed away. I'm like, wait, what? I said, okay. So I was like, and then they had the funeral. They had her in the casket, and they took the baby out of her and dressed the baby up and put her in the arms.
oh wow.
That messed me all the way up because I'm like, now I'm feeling guilt. I'm feeling the guilt of not trying to reach back out to
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me stop you
yeah.
right there. So, the circumstances of her death, are we talking about death, you know, death by suicide, or did she have some sort of illness?
No, it was an illness. Um she was going through. Come to find out, I was talking to her mom. She was going through some personal stuff with her baby father, I guess, and everything, and some stuff was just going on traumatic. So I guess she was dealing with pills and stuff.
Hmm.
She was
So
dealing with that.
so it was an overdose.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Okay.
and so
The reason
because
I
I believe she,
the reason I bring it up is because I was like, well, if she just died, like why are you feeling bad? And now I get it, you know,
yeah,
because reaching out to you when she was having, you think you might have been able to do something.
yeah, I should have been able to do something, but I was just like, I got to work, I was working at Dish Network at that time. I had to work. I gotta, take care of this, and I just didn't really have time. And her and her boyfriend, they both reached out to me, and I lived with that guilt, and I'm just like, dang, now she's gone, and I just had stuff just kept replaying in my head, and it just turned from the depression. Then when it hit the depression, then it hit anxiety, and
Mm,
it was bad. I don't wish that on my worstest enemy. And
yeah.
now, but I'm grateful I went through it because now I can help other people to either overcome it or either better deal with their depression and anxiety. And there's plenty of people that are dealing with literally right now as we speak, that face that and they struggle with that, but they're doing better now. One guy at Tesla, he had a panic attack on the production line, and only one I was able to talk to him was me, not bragging, but talk to him was me, and I was telling him what to do, what we should try to do, and everything. What worked for me. Now he's got a girlfriend. No, take that back. He's married now. He's
Mm,
married now, and he's functioning a whole lot better, and He said he goes through his moments, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah. Well, you know, a couple things about that that is so interesting. I was just recently on a, I think on a last podcast, or it might be one that I haven't dropped yet. Um, we were talking about this idea that like how interesting it is that you went through that, we'll call it a trial, right? Where
Hmm.
you had this experience that caused you some depression and anxiety. But isn't it
Hmm.
interesting that these difficult moments make you a more empathetic person?
Oh
So that,
yes.
so that when the next person comes along, you're there and you can say, "Hey, I understand." It's very Christ-like.
No, of course.
Yeah.
And that's what we're and that's why as believers, that's what we are supposed to. Okay, I say the word. Yeah, that's what we're to imitate, and that's what we're to be like. Is like Christ, to be close like Christ. You know, if you look at the word disciple means to be a learner. And
Yeah.
so, it's to be a learner of Christ. And so I do my best to learn of Jesus and try to live the best way I can for the Lord. I'm not a, how can I say, it's not like, it's not that I don't have any faults, or have any thought. I mean,
Yeah.
we all have our issues. That's why Jesus died. Thank
Yeah,
God for that.
you're still human. Yeah.
You're still human, yeah. I'm not I like I'm all that, and you know I don't sin. No, in the Bible, it says if any man says that they don't have sin, he's a liar.
Yeah.
First John
Yeah.
chapter
Well, you
one.
know,
And so,
that's something that I find really interesting is that you hear sometimes about we hear this in my church. I'm Mormon. I'm from the Church of Jesus Christ of
oh
Latter-day
yeah, oh yeah,
Saints, and we have leaders that are bishops and they're volunteer basically pastors. And
mm-hmm,
sometimes you'll hear somebody say, well, he's this and he does that, I don't like the way he does this. And I just
mm-hmm,
think, if you read the Bible, there are so many prophets, apostles, who were doing unspeakable things.
right,
Just because you're a follower, a believer, or even a leader in a church doesn't mean that you don't have faults. That you don't you
exactly.
have the exact you are taking advantage of the exact same atonement that everybody else is.
That's right.
Yeah. So now tell me what was it that what do you think that experience with your cousin passing away due to the overdose, and then you going through that depression, anxiety, and coming out of that, what do you think you learned from that?
What I learned from that, man, when people are reaching out, especially in a situation like that,
Mhm.
do your best to help. If you can't do it, help get them some help that they need.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know, because like you said, I'm not Superman. You
Right.
know, and so, but because yeah, I'm gonna say you'd be surprised because I'm pretty sure you might know yourself. How many people have some major struggles and
Mm.
they're just quiet about it,
Yeah.
and they don't say nothing, because they too feel, because sometimes people look up to you.
Mhm.
Let me go here. You look up to you, and you don't want to, show the sign of I got a weakness. But no, some people need to know you have faults too, just like they do. You
Yeah.
know, how can we reach more to Christ if we're acting like we're so perfect and we're so, and that's one thing, man. That's a whole other message. But that's one
Yeah.
thing about when it comes to my church. I say just the Baptist faith. I'm not even going that route because you got people are just different. But my thing is, I've always been the person that just loves people. I have a
Mm.
love for people, and
Yeah.
I've compassion. I have care for just people of all races. I love every race in the planet. You
Mhm.
know, and of course, a lot of everybody know the famous scripture, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten. Or if you translate the word begotten, it means only born Son. Whosoever
Mm.
believes in Him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And the thing about it is, though, but if you look at the context, he said the world.
Hmm.
And so I love everybody, really, Indian, Caucasian. I get along. I have friends almost every culture,
Yeah,
of every
yeah, me
culture.
too. Me
You
too.
know, like if you say you're in town, can I come by? Like, man, come on, come by the house. Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
good. You
yeah,
want to watch wrestling? So you want some chicken? What you want?
yeah, yeah.
I,
Well,
I'm
that's
sorry.
that's so important. I mean, I think that that is the mark, in my opinion, of a true Christian. I
That's right.
I run into this a lot, and you may run into this too with people who are highly religious in your faith, where
Oh,
they only associate with other people who are believers or of the
hmm
faith. And I just think, man, like, how is it possible? Like, our faith is our faith is very missionary oriented.
I love
And
it. Yeah.
we have a lot of missionaries who go out and serve 2 years. We have them in every one of our congregations. And so I remember when I was a missionary and I would go up, and I've just always been that way. Like, I've always had friends who were members of my church, other churches, no church, all sorts of things. And I would go, hey, do you have any friends that maybe want to hear our message? And they'd be like, oh, well, all my friends are just members of the church. And I would be like, well, then you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to reach out. And I think that's one of the things that I love about, I was just talking to Trip about this when we saw
hmm
each other at the Taco Festival. Something that I really love about wrestling is that it is a conduit for me to run into and become friends with people that I would never
Yes.
in any other way be able to associate with.
Right.
Like, I love that, like, I went to a taco festival and ran into El Flaco Loco, who is a punk rock music star,
That's
who is
right.
a brain
That's right.
tumor survivor, loves horror films, and is not
hmm
religious really at all, you
At
know.
all.
And then there's me, who's just this Mormon guy who also happens to like horror music and
That's right.
and music or wrestling, and we somehow come together and become friends.
hmm
I think that's just so cool about wrestling, and I wish that there were more people that would be involved in it so they could get kind of that same brother and sisterhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even I'm gonna tell you something that you don't know. You ever listen to death metal?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You ever heard of a group called Trivium?
No, no.
Trivium is a major death metal band.
Uh-huh.
They're based out of Florida. Well, uh, the drummer of our church, who actually taught my daughter, and before he moved, left out of here, but I met him through this network and working on his house. It was all God. It was literally all
Yeah.
God because I couldn't leave that house worth nothing. His name is Alex Bent.
Hmm.
Alex Bent is one of the number one. He's one of the best drummers in the world.
Wow.
Him, a guy that was you ever heard of Suicidal Tendencies?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Okay, you ever heard the drummer Eric Moore Jr.?
Uh-huh.
I know his whole family.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're in Stockton. I know the whole family.
Wow. That's
Yeah, I knew
awesome.
his dad. When he was living, I bought my rose from his dad. I've been to his dad's house, and I know his sister. Oh, like I mean, oh God, I know his whole family. I know Eric Moore Jr. I know if I ran to him, what's up, Eric? How you doing, brother Eric? He like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up, little king? Just
Nice.
know each other. So yeah, but yeah, I listen to that too. I mean, I don't discriminate. I don't.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't.
that's what's so cool about, I think that's what makes a good minister, right? Is
Yeah.
somebody who can relate to all people. Now, I want to go back because I talked to you earlier. I wanted you to tell me how you got into you mentioned off air, you said that in the early 2000s you really kind of felt like you got the call to be a minister. So maybe you can kind of tell me how that came about.
Okay. Okay. This is what happened. This is what happened. What I decided, I said, okay, I try to get too emotional with this, but
Yeah.
my other uncle, see, a lot of these people had passed away. It's just they went home to be with the Lord. Um, Reverend Dr. Ernest Bass, my uncle, who I love and miss. I miss him so much. Um, he told me in the barbershop. He was
Mm.
cutting my hair. He said, "Man, you should start." He said, "Brother King, you should start reading the Bible." I'm like, I'm not reading no Bible.
Right.
About that. I'm just going to church every day. I was just traditionally going to church. That's what I was just doing. I knew the itinerary. I knew how they do stuff. I was just going, but I really didn't have that personal relationship with
So
him for myself.
you were kind of just going through the motions of the tradition you
I,
knew.
I was going through the motion of the tradition, right? Traditionalism, legalism
Mhm.
of things. Because we kind of now we don't have a lot of that traditionalism, legalism stuff. We killed all that at our church. But anyways, besides all that, and he told me to do that, and then one day later on I just felt a desire. I said I want to learn more about God, and so I went back, got my hair cut. And I said, well, what do I do? He said, well, start off reading um, one chapter a day. Read the book of Proverbs. Is 1 month of reading because 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs. That's okay. So I read, start doing that. It's praying and all this other stuff. He told me what to pray for when I do this, and I still do it to this day. Ask God for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of His Word. That's why I pray every time before I read the Bible.
Mm.
And I started getting addicted. I said, "What I read next?" He said, "Read Psalms. It teaches you how to pray and teaches you this, that, blah, 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 blah." The Psalms of David. So I began to read Psalms and everything. And next, I started getting it. I got addicted. I got this. The zeal was just there. The zeal was just. It was just. It was just. I was just on fire for it. Then I met a group of guys at Stockton Honda. I worked at Stockton Honda for 5 years and 8 months, and and they were did the upholstery on the cars. They would come and put the plastic down and do all this other stuff. So when you come see a used car, you see that plastic that's on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Look at used car. Yeah, they did all that, and so they would detail it inside the car and stuff. And so, keep a long story short, I got with them, and they're the International Churches of Christ. So I was with them for about a good 6 to 7 months. That was my boot camp training. They were literally boot camp. I mean, you had to get up 5 in the morning and meet up at one brother Rick Acevedo. Man, that's my dude. I ain't seen him in a long time though, brother Rick. And we would go to Starbucks or whatever, or we'll meet up at his house, have breakfast or whatever, and we'd be reading the Bible and just taking notes and know what we reading and stuff. And so after that, some things fell through because I felt I want to go out and witness. You know how like the Mormons, the Jehovah's,
Yeah.
different ones. We do it too. We go out there in our own communities and we
Mm.
we feed, we clothe. September 23rd is the day. Another day we're gonna be giving free haircuts. We have some barbers coming in, gonna get free haircuts. We wanna give out free clothes, free food. We're gonna have another barbecue, and we're gonna we're gonna have all type of stuff going on that day. And so, keep a long story short, um, got to after I left them, I came to the church I'm at, pastor now, Christian Baptist Church, under the leadership of the late pastor Floyd Gray. Um, and I started sitting up under him, because I was like, I wanted to go out and witness, be a witness for Jesus Christ.
Sure.
I want to bring more souls to Jesus. But they were telling me, no, you can't go out and do that until, and see, this is how they twisted it, until you tell all the sins that you've done all your life.
Mm.
You had to tell the pastor all the
Like a
sins you've done.
confession thing? Like a confession thing?
That's a confession, which they twisted James 5 and 16, where it says, "Confess your faults one to another and pray for another that you may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much." But they're basically saying they're using that to say that you have to tell all your sins, confess everything that you've done. Then we baptize you. Then you can go out.
Mm.
But something, and I was like, something was wrong with that. I'm gonna tell you what happened. That's what happened. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Bishop J.D. Foreman, the late Bishop J.D. Foreman, he was one of my best friends. He died at 89 years old. That was my oldest close friend. He was
Mm.
89 years old,
Wow.
and but he had spoke to me. He said, Princeton, there's some guys that you're around that's trying to stop you from doing the work of Jesus Christ. You need to leave them alone. He didn't even know me.
Mm.
He didn't even know me, and he told me that. I was like, oh, time to go. And
Yeah.
so I, I end up I went home. I'm gonna try to make it short. I went home one night and I went to sleep, and I went to a deep sleep. It was a different type of sleep. So I was like, I know I didn't die yet. I hope not, but whatever, no matter. And so I'm not scared of die. Death does not fear. I'm not afraid of death. But I had went to sleep and I in the vision, the dream, I heard someone said, preach preach my gospel. That's all I heard.
Hmm.
Preach my gospel. And I know this is gonna sound like, what? No, yeah, that's what I heard. And when I woke up, it was a different feeling. It was a different, and I'm like, what just happened? Like,
Real quick, let me stop you right there. What did it feel like?
it felt like, like you were like coming back to your body. It's like almost like an out of body experience. It was just
Mm,
like, and when I woke up, I had goosebumps over my whole body. I'm like, what just happened here?
mm.
I'm like, is this a medical thing? I'm just, I'm not,
Right,
you
right.
know, like, I'm like, what? There's got to be an explanation of it, and I'm just like trying to find out. I couldn't find nothing, and everything. Do the book studies because the internet was out, but you couldn't really find a whole lot of stuff on the internet back in
Right,
2001, back then.
right.
And so, keep a long story short, I start going. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna be no preaching and everything. And then so, but I said, I'll be an usher at the church, and
Mhm.
I would get to the pulpit area where the pastor and the ministers were, and I just felt too comfortable right there. I was like, oh, what the heck? I'm like, nah. Then and then my dad, God rest his soul, the late Dan King, told Pastor Gray, he said, my son feels that he's been called to be a gospel preacher and everything. Man, he called me. I had to meet him at the hospital with his wife, the late Brenda Gray. And I talked to him. He said, "Man, don't run from God when God is calling you to do something." He said, "I believe that God has called you to do." I said, "Nah, I ain't doing all that. I ain't doing all that preaching and everything." Went to San Francisco at a funeral for Mother Willie Witherspoon at the AME Church in San Francisco. Huge church out there, beautiful facility. Went there for a funeral. I was walking up the stairs with my mom and my grandfather, the late Jim Alexander. Walked up the stairs with them, and the guy rushed out. Hey, sir, you're not supposed to be on that side. I was like, what are you talking about? You're supposed to be on this side. I'm not, preaching or nothing like that. He said, you're supposed to be over here with the preachers and pastors. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not a preacher or pastor. No, no, no. He said,
Hmm.
you sure about that? I said, yeah. I said, yeah. Man, I just feel, man, that you got that call on your life to preach. And my mom and them start laughing at me. I said, no, man, no. I said, no, that ain't me. That ain't me. That ain't me. Because I've never been the type of person to be like, superstitious or,
Right, right.
I just let things be what it is. And man, and kept signs kept coming and coming. And I'm like, and then the last straw, y'all can believe this or not, but I don't want to lie. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and just be here just to exaggerate or that. I don't want to waste nobody's time.
Mhm.
I went to my friend's funeral. He got killed in Daly City on a freeway.
Mm,
Raymond Gardner went to his funeral. Walked up to the casket because in the Baptist faith and everything, when they have funerals, they have the final viewing and
mhm,
everything, and before they close the casket, and that's the last time you see the person. And so went to the final viewing and everything. When I looked in the casket, I didn't see him. I saw myself.
mm.
I was
Wow.
like, and that freaked me out. That messed me all the way up. I'm driving back to Stockton, tore up, man. I'm like, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep, and I was crying. And one day I walked into church. Of course I was reading the Bible and everything. Walked into church, man, and I just broke down. Excuse me. I broke down crying, man. I'll never forget that day. Excuse me. Told you I tried to get emotional, man.
Okay.
And I just couldn't run from God no more, man. I couldn't. I tried to run and I couldn't run. I was like Jonah. Jonah, I'm trying to go to Tarshish. And I don't want to go to Nineveh. and so And so I ran, man, and Pastor Gray, they heard I was crying, man. Pastor Gray called me and I was like, Brother King, get in my office, get in here. I was like, what? I got in there. He grabbed me and started praying for me. He said, boy, I done told you. He said, just like he said, boy, I done told you, stop running from God. You got to do what God calls you to do. And I said, I can't keep running because he keeps the call on my life is just evident. I'm out here witnessing to people in the store, talking to people and I just end up just speaking the gospel of Jesus to people. Just I don't know, just doing it. And man, I ended up announcing, that been called to preach, the gospel of Jesus Christ, and then after all that, every pressure that I had went away.
Mm.
Every pressure that I had went away. And preached my first sermon December 7th, 2003. And end up becoming the pastor of the church because Pastor Gray, he ended up leaving the church that I'm pastoring. End up, so I end up preaching my first sermon. First sermon was called "God Can Give It to You, but What You Gonna Do with It?" So with, with the seminary, I have an associate's in biblical studies. Biblical studies. I have a bachelor's in theology. Um, then in the pastoring, the church I'm at now. Uh, I started 2016, September 2016. They just asked me to come preach one sermon because they didn't have a pastor at the time. The church I'm pastoring, and they said, can you come preach this sermon this Sunday? Because the guy who was supposed to get it, I was going for it. The church, you know, he had to go out of town, so they asked me to preach. Man, that Sunday, I just came to preach one sermon. I talked about start over.
Mm.
Man, that Sunday, sir, I preached that sermon, and then after I finished, we had about this. It was about 13 people uh, gave their lives to Jesus Christ, and when it became, I'm sorry, my charger came out my phone. Gave their lives to Jesus Christ that day, and they were like, okay, can you come back and we want you, we'll have teach them and baptize them and stuff. I know the Mormon faith, you guys had the baptism, you guys had the baptism of the dead too. You guys had a couple
Mm.
things. I know a lot about the Mormon I don't want to say religion, the Mormon
Church.
rituals and what you guys do. I love you guys. I love the Mormon church.
Oh, that's
So
all.
so the thing about it is though, I came back and then ended up baptizing them, and then they said, Pastor King, can you come and run the service all the way to the end of the year? I was like, really? I said, look, I just can't preach one time, and I said, all right. I said, I'll preach all the way to the end of December 17th and everything. Man, they said, our church, the church has voted you in to be the pastor of the Corinthian Baptist Church.
Mm.
Right. The church I started preaching at is the same church I'm pastoring.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
That's,
amazing.
that is amazing.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned that. Now tell me, and I want to kind of get your, I guess, your testimony here. And you
Sure.
mentioned earlier, you said, as soon as I started preaching, and I assume part of that is this concept that you stopped running from God and did what He wanted you to do. You said
Hmm.
that all of your struggle, not your struggles, but kind of your stresses went away.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean by that?
Sure. Oh man, it was just the pressure of God calling me to do this, but I'm running. I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Mhm.
I don't want to preach. That's not what I want to do. I just want to go to church and go usher and go do what we do. Care about. I don't be because let me be honest with you. I didn't even like preachers. I didn't. I didn't even like preachers and pastors. I didn't like none of it. I was like, man, I'll just go to church and I'll be nice to them and say hi to them and everything. But I didn't want to be bothered. I was just the type of
Mhm.
person I just didn't want to be bothered. But it was just like so much pressure from that. It was then once again with the death of my friend Raymond, there was a lot of pressure from that. It was like is God gonna kill me for not doing what He told me to do? But that's how I took it at the time, But I'm like, and then watch this. That same year, 2003, because I ended up announcing the calling to preach November um, of 2003, and I preached my first sermon December 7th, 2003. But I went through 13 funerals, people that I knew all around me, 13 funerals in 1 year in
Wow.
2013, from San Francisco to Stockton, the folks that I was connected with. I mean, they were dying all over the place. And I was telling you that, I was at the stairs and going up with my grandfather and my mom and everything, and that was one of them.
Mm,
That was one of the
wow.
funerals. And as
Man.
I grew up with the late, the lady been on me since I was a baby. Just different folks. They just leaving here left and right. I'm like, man, okay. And man, it was just so much. I'm like, damn, all these funerals, got all this other stuff, got this going on, working, and then I'm up here trying to run from God to do what He called me to do. Because I kept getting sign after sign after sign after sign
Mm.
after sign after sign. Oh, that's gonna tell you that after I kept getting signs to do what He called me to do.
Yeah.
And man, when I stopped, it's like something in me just like left. It's like it's like a balloon that popped in my life. And my godmom, Mother Gail Lofton, she was the first one to get up and hug me when I announced the calling at the church, and then all these people start coming up hugging me and everything, holding me, hugging me and stuff, man. They said we know it, we know it, we know what's gonna happen. You're gonna be a preacher one day. We know what's gonna happen. I was like, well, you knew, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So now you've been, I mean, if you started your preaching, your ministering in 2003, you're coming up on your 20th year.
Yes, I am.
Can you,
Yes, I
can
am.
you give me I'm sure it's hit every aspect of your life, but can you kind of give me a sense of what the blessings you've seen from being
Oh
able to preach the word?
man, this journey. I try to go back. Man, I'm White Rose Church of God in Christ, Stockton. I preached a sermon called "Drop It Like It's Hot,"
Mhm. Mhm.
and the pastor got nervous. And the pastor's son, Michael Peterson, got nervous. Like, well, wait a minute, King. But I was talking about Jonah.
Mhm.
Dude, Jonah off the boat due to he was the problem,
Mhm.
but it had problems out there on the sea. And so I talked about drop it like it's hot. That was just, it was kind of like, what's the word? I was still learning, about the pulpit preaching and stuff. So I was very, I would say immature, but I had some immature ways of doing things and stuff. And so, with the titles and everything. So I preached that. But that day at that church, uh, about 20 something young people came to the altar um, asking for prayer
Mhm.
after the message was over. It was amazing, amazing moment with that. Um, because in our faith, Baptist Church of God in Christ, we have altar calls. After
Mhm.
people need prayer, come up and we'll pray for you. I'm more, even though I pastor a Baptist church, my pastor, home church pastor, was Pentecostal, so I kind of came out like that. But
Mhm.
I still embraced the Baptist faith because the church was still Baptist and everything. But I love all. It doesn't matter where you are. I love Jesus and I love people.
Can I ask you a
Um,
question? In your church, how does the how do is there speaking in tongues in your church?
um, some people do,
Mm.
not everybody, not everybody, because we believe that it's not everybody's gift,
Yeah.
according to Scripture.
So tell me how that in your church, how that works. Because I got to tell you, like I've been to a bunch of different churches as part of my mission in Indiana. I did,
Uh-huh.
especially in the summer, there were lots of tent revivals out there. Food was amazing, but
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
but a lot of soul food out there, and oh, so good. And so anyway, but I had seen some that seemed there's not, we believe in the Mormon faith that the speaking of tongues is like missionaries will go to a different country and will learn the language like that.
Language.
Right? But
Mm-hmm.
then I know in some faiths it's like a language that's not really something something distinguishable like a language from earth necessarily, but there's usually someone there to kind of interpret, right?
Interpret. Mm-hmm.
But then there's some that I went to where it was like I had no idea what was going on. It was like you sit there and there's like people getting up and dancing, and then I remember one time
Yeah.
this was getting pushed around like she was in a pinball machine, and I was like,
Yeah.
so tell me in your church and in your tradition, how does the tongues work?
Okay. It's a gift. We believe it's a gift. And I've seen it. You got some people, let's be honest. Come on. Let's be brutally honest. Some people just they act like they're doing it, but they're really not, just to make themselves sound like they're so super holy.
Right.
It's
That
super
was the
spiritual.
impression. That was the impression I got a few times where I was like, this can't, like I was looking at it and I go, I feel like I have an open mind. But like at the time, and I was a young guy, I was 20, but I was like, I don't feel like that's real. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
couple times you sitting there and they're like dancing around and jumping around and acting kind of, and I was like, I don't want to say that they're not feeling the spirit, but I just don't think that's legit.
You're right. See, and that's the thing. I'm so real when it comes to this. Cause I seen the real one, the real tongues come into place. And that was the start of me wanting to get close to Christ. I seen the real one because it was in, like you said, in languages. Because my I'll go there. Let's go there now. My cousin, Darlene Bryant, we had a service one day in San Francisco, a service one night, and we started at 3 o'clock, and the Spirit of the Lord the service just fire. And my cousin, she started speaking in tongues, but the tongues was she started speaking in languages, speaking French. She was speaking all. She never took no classes. Well, high school she took Spanish, but she could speak Spanish, fluently because she did that. But French language. She never learned certain other languages. And my auntie, another one, Auntie Veronica Alexander, she passed away too in 2000. She interpreted from different races, from different languages, of what she was saying. Man, my mom, she had water in her knee. Man, I'll never forget. It messed me up. Had water in her knee. She was going to the doctor the next day to get the water drained out of her knee. My mom would tell you herself. I'll never forget this. My cousin, the one that was speaking in different languages, she couldn't stop. She was trying to talk English, and she couldn't stop. Walked over to my mom. She didn't even know my mom had water in her knee. Touched her knee, and the water was gone, man.
Wow.
I don't want to sit here just be telling like so like, oh, they just the supernatural. I mean, look, I'm a realist. I keep it real. I don't like fakeness. I don't do a lot of fakeness. I'm Even our church, we keep it 100% real. You know,
Yeah, let me stop you and just say something real quick right there.
sure.
Because I do have a large Mormon, not a large, but I think I have a pretty decent sized Mormon audience. And
Oh, okay.
some of those people would listen to this and they would say, because the Mormon tradition has a very, how would I say, very formal
Very formal. Yes, they are.
idea of healing
Right.
by good power. And so I'm wondering if there might be somebody listening who hears that story and goes, "Oh, that couldn't have been real because it wasn't by this or that, and it didn't say these specific words." But what I would just remind people is this: is if you're a true Christian, as Jesus said, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could
Come
move.
on, man.
So I just say that because, and there's been many times where someone just, I mean, we heard a story. There's just one of my favorite stories in the Bible is when Jesus is walking and there's the woman. I can't remember what her ailment was, but she kept yelling to Jesus and he didn't hear her. And she just thought, well, if I could just touch
The woman's garment. The
touch,
woman with the issue of blood. Yes, sir.
yeah. And she touched it and he felt it. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, thy faith has made thee whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we do understand that you don't have to necessarily have a specific word or a specific priesthood or a specific anything
Hmm.
for miracles to happen. And so
Right.
I have no doubt that if you're telling me that that happened, that that could have very well happened as long as everybody had faith that it could.
Right. Right. And you, if you come to next time you come to a next level show, my mom comes all the time now. My mom, my
Yeah.
uncle, and
Yeah.
then watch this. I'm not even gonna tell her about this. She probably ain't gonna. I'm not even gonna tell her about the podcast. Well, I can tell her about the podcast, whatever. But I
Tell
guarantee
everybody
you,
about the podcast. I want people to hear it.
yeah, yeah. That's not the time. I was like, what I just say? Look, I mean by that because I want to see show you that my sincerity. I'm
Yeah.
with this. I'm very sincere about this
Well,
when it comes
I
to the
believe
Lord.
it. I can
Yeah.
tell. Listen, Princeton, here's the thing. I can tell that you believe.
Oh
It's,
yeah.
there are some people out there, like you said, that were like you, and I see them. I can tell who they are. Some of them even
Mhm.
admit they're that person. You said, because I was that way when I was a teenager. I was the guy who was just I had a social conversion because all my friends were Mormon,
Mhm.
and it was a tradition, so I went to church, but I didn't, like you said, the personal relationship wasn't there. There's a lot of people who are just going through the motions.
Oh yeah.
I can tell that's not you.
Oh,
You know.
that's not me. That's
Yeah.
not me. Because like back to the tongues, you know, what gets me is this. And I told my church, I said, how can you speak in tongues and not speak to your own brother and sister that you see every day?
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
That's hypocritical.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of stuff that I've seen, within certain denominations that, as I'm just like I said, I love a lot of people, and it's just a habit, from how I grew up. I speak to people, if I'm in the store, I want to pass away. Hey, how you doing? If they look at me, hey, how you doing? Like some people speak, some people don't. Whatever, that's what they do.
Mhm.
But some people they have the, in the Christian faith, Pentecostal church. Excuse me, did I say that? So they will have their hair up, the dress that the dress and the whole attire and everything. But it happens all the time to where if I see them, hey, how you doing? How you doing? They'll look at me like, who are you? And just keep walking. I'm
Mhm.
like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's Jesus in this?
Yeah. Right.
You
Yeah.
know, Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right. Right.
Jesus made himself available to everybody.
Well, and it's funny you talk about the stories. The parable he gave was the Good Samaritan.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Samaritans hated. I mean, the Jews and the Samaritans did not like each other.
No, no.
And his whole point was, you know, who was the neighbor in this situation?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and a priest and a Levite walked by and did nothing,
Walk
but
by.
the Samaritan did it.
He
And so,
thought about helping, but he's like, I'm gonna keep going.
yeah, right, right. Let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a
Sure.
little bit more about wrestling. So you mentioned Matt Freeman and you mentioned
Yeah.
Stin, you mentioned some of these guys who are really integral in getting you involved. How did that all come about?
Man, this is what it's amazing. It's so amazing how it happened. Um 2020.
Hmm.
I'm giving the years, the dates and times. 2020. I had been looking. I had no idea because I'm from San Francisco. I had no idea that they had local indie wrestling
Hmm.
in the Stockton area, and I was like, man. And then I was like, go on the internet trying to find out if they got wrestling, and I saw something that says TWF.
Oh yeah.
It was TW, and I'm like, okay, let's say yeah, TWF. So I'm like trying to find out shows, but the website or whatever they had, it wasn't good, it was too good. So I sent a email or something like that. Said, hey, I'd like to know when you guys are gonna have shows. I want to support indie wrestling and everything and stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's the I'm like, nobody got back to me. And it was on somebody's page. I think it was Marcus Mack,
Mm,
uh, and APW Daly City
yeah.
and everything. APW. See what? Let me. Okay, I'm gonna go back into that. There was two major fans in Daly City. They were big fans of wrestling. Two major fans. It
Hmm.
was Marcus Mack and me. Crazy part is, I knew of Marcus Mack. I heard of him, but I had never met him. I didn't meet
Mm.
Marcus until Facebook.
Yeah, man, Marcus, I gotta say, I've known Marcus a long time.
Yes,
And,
sir.
and that guy, say what you want about him. I know that some people he's rubbed some people the wrong way, and I know that there's
Oh,
some people.
really?
Oh
Oh,
yeah, we're talking about 20 years, 25 years of North
okay.
wrestling. There have been ups and downs, and
Oh, yeah.
Marcus has had, if you can't promote wrestling in at all without rubbing a few people the wrong way. But
Oh, yeah. I learned.
say what you want to say about Marcus Mack.
Mm.
That guy loves this wrestling business,
Yes, he does.
and
Yes, he does.
he put his entire heart and soul into APW when Roland
Yeah.
Alexander passed away. And
Yeah.
I give him all the props in the world for putting on some really, really good shows. I mean, really good.
Yeah.
And helping a lot of guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. I mean, hey, I don't know if you know this, you may know this, but Marcus Mack ran the Cow Palace. I mean,
Yeah, I heard about. Yeah, he did. He really did. Yeah.
yeah, he had Cody Rhodes versus Joey Ryan in a cage,
In the cage match.
and and brought in what's his name, the first Intercontinental Champion, Pat Patterson. Brought in Pat Patterson.
Yeah, he sure did. Cow Palace.
Yeah, to the Cow Palace. So I mean, that guy has done a ton, and when you see guys like Will Hobbs and Jeff Cobb and J.R.
Oh.
Craig and Jungle Boy Jack Perry,
Yep.
all of those guys,
Jacob Fatu.
guys go back to
Yeah.
and all of other NorCal too. We all share a piece of those guys' success. You know what I mean?
Dan.
We were all a part of it, and so
Yeah.
he's a great one. But anyway, that's a little aside. So back to you. So you find out about Oh, and that's another thing. I'm going to go on another tangent here because I don't know. You're newer to the scene than I am, but TWF. So when I was running a backyard fed in '98, TWF was another backyard fed. They were in Tracy. We were in Sacramento.
Oh.
And then they moved up here. I don't know if Jake moved up here or how that happened, but he ended up here in Sacramento. And that guy, I got to give him. I don't know him very well. I've only talked to him maybe a handful of times in my life. But as somebody who's been around and watched as a conscientious observer, there is nobody. I don't think there's anybody in NorCal right now who has taken more crap than Jake for TWF, because they were a back, and everyone called them that when they started running the Colonial. Everyone had a problem with it, and that guy has stuck with it. He is the guy he is the heart and soul of TWF, and
phenomenal guy.
And now guys who were talking trash about TWF are now working TWF,
working with it. Yeah,
and that guy, and they are like a major part now of the pro NorCal scene.
Yep.
So that is a guy who, there is nobody who is he is like the Miz of NorCal, where he just took crap, and now is widely respected.
Yeah,
it's amazing to watch.
Man, Jake is, man, I thank God for Jake, man. I really do. Because when we didn't get to do it, but I told him, I said, we're trying to do like a charity show for our church, but we want to reach out to like the homeless and get homeless over there to watch wrestling, and at our church, in the parking lot and everything and stuff. And it was just like a free show. We wanted to pay whatever we got paid, to help out, with the show and everything. And I was going to work with Jake, but I never got a chance to. But Jake is a great guy. Jake Sherman is a great, great, great guy. We both 49er fans.
He's a good dude. And he, the other thing that I respect about him was that he was never, to me, like you've heard the term mark, he was never a mark. He had no problem saying no to people. He had no problem saying, no, this is, and he held on to what his vision was of TWF. And
that's right.
like I said, I have all the respect in the world for him for sticking with it, because I heard some of the things that he had to go through, and it was not pretty, and he's stuck with it, and he's been true to
Mhm.
TWF. He's
Yes, he
still
has.
left TWF originals who were given so much crap, and now people are like, legit world renowned wrestlers are holding, arm in arm with these guys who are TWF originals.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
impressive to see that now,
yeah. It's wonderful.
So now so how did you end up did you have to do any training as an announcer, or is it just because your ministry you just knew it? You
Look,
knew
what happened was, I'm gonna tell you, this is amazing. So I go, Matt Freeman comments on the post, and that's how I get to that part right there.
Mhm.
Matt Freeman commented on a post, and he said he was talking about wrestling in Stockton Lodi area, and I'm like, and I said, hey man, I want to be a part of this. I want to be. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. And 2020, the pandemic. There's no wrestling going on and everything. I said, I would love to go to a wrestling event. So he said, come to this address, his backyard, and go to this address, and we're gonna have wrestling. That was October 2020, and I go and it's stuff. They had the smoke machine. They had everything and stuff. I took pictures with Josh Caton, Justin Caton, my daughter, Andrew Arch, Michael Sean, different ones. Jason Hastings.
Nice.
I love Jason. When I say that's my brother, that's my brother.
Yeah.
Anyways, keep a long story short. Um, they had their matches and everything and stuff, and I enjoyed it and everything. There was a lot of cussing and stuff at the time. It
Sure.
was, and I thought it was TWF, and it said, and then I said, I put on Facebook, I said I enjoyed myself at TWF wrestling, all this other stuff, and it said that's not TWF, that's next level pro wrestling. I said
Mhm.
okay, my bad. So next level pro wrestling. So the next month, that was November. They said, Matt Freeman gets the mic. He said, we need ring announcers. We need no, forgive me, Johnny George. Johnny George was the ring announcer. They said we need a ring announcers. We need interviewers. We need wrestlers. If you want to, you come here. To the barn right here, Matt Freeman's barn. You can learn how to be a pro wrestler and all this other stuff, and you can learn how to do be a part of this business. And something just hit me. Boom, go for it. It's your dream. I was like, hey, Matt Freeman, he was the only one I knew, talk with him. I said, hey, man, what do you guys need in the business? That's all I asked. What do I need? What do you guys need? He said, well, we need an interviewer. I said, I'll do it. I'll do it. I said, I got suits galore in my closet, and all that stuff. I'm a pastor, so I got suits galore in a closet. And so I went over there. He brought me over to Justin. Oh, God, I'm not going to get emotional with this part because I get emotional every time I think about it. I go to Justin. We bring him to Justin. Justin, he looks at me and he just stares at me for a minute. He looks back down and then he said, "Can you come out here on Tuesday?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "I'll be here Tuesday." And he just froze again, just looked at me like, "Okay, see you Tuesday." He wanted to make sure I was going to show up. I showed up.
Hmm.
I showed up. When I get there, I get in the ring. Michael Science trying to get me to do a front row. I said, "Hey man, I didn't go to practice. I can't do a front row yet. I'm a little bit too big right now. I can't do a front row." So I get there. And everything. I come out there, and then I'll tell you about that too. So I said, so you guys need an interviewer? So what do you want me to do? I said, I watched a lot of Mean Gene Oakland, and all this other stuff, from growing up as a child, watching Mean Gene and stuff. I
Yeah.
said, I know how to be an interviewer and everything. They said, you know what? We changed our mind. We need a ring announcer.
Nice.
Okay. I said, they said, can you be a ring announcer? I said, yeah. Do you have any suits or anything? I said, I got plenty of suits. I got black suits, gray suits. What color suit you want?
Yeah.
and,
Nice.
and stuff. So they said, well, let's try you out. Without a microphone. I want you to introduce Michael Sean.
Mm.
Oh, I love Mike. I love Mike to death still to this day. Mike. So I asked somebody, you know, where's he built from? It was easy. From Reno, Nevada, weighing in at 210 pounds. The main event, Michael Shine. So what I did in my ring announcer voice. When I did it the first time, they froze
Hmm.
and they were like, "Oh my god!" They're like, "Oh my goodness." Okay, here, let's do another one. So I did Justin. But I did Justin's name and everything. They said, okay, you start on December this day in December. You know, we're gonna have the event here in the backyard, and you're gonna ring it out. So I ring announced my first day was Christmas class Royal Rumble, the
Nice.
Rumble that day, and my first match that I ring announced was the Chilango Kid versus Johnny Inc. I love Michael. You know, it's Michael Smith, but you know Johnny Inc. I was like, man, big guy, and and stuff, and great guy. So I introduced that match, and then I did the whole thing, and they just kind of threw me out there with no experience. They just threw me out there to ring announce, and I did it. You know, I have my ups and downs. I have my ups and downs and stuff. You know, I had to talk with people like Doc Atrocity sat talking with me.
God,
Um,
I'm trying to get him on the podcast. He's such a great. He's so good.
oh man, I was just sitting because I messed up one night a couple times, and I was just down myself. And Doc Atrocity, he he sat and talked with me and changed my whole way of thinking in the wrestling business. And him, Boyce LeGrand,
Yeah,
uh, they both got to me. Tony Vargas, of course.
yeah,
That's number one. Tony Vargas, talk with him, and they're Sin, Jason. We call him Sin in the wrestling business. Talk
sure.
with him, and they encourage me and they help me to be. These guys help me to be better. Justin Caden, of course, they all just help me to get better at what I do as a ring announcer and in the wrestling business. Even I feel like a lot of times I owe my life to Tony Vargas due
Hmm.
to reasons, he allowed and Jason Hastings because they allow a lot of my dreams to come true. From um, I got beat up on my birthday, on my birthday from Tony Vargas in the ring. He had beat me up, man, and stuff on one event, and he stopped me, grabbed me, made me smile in front of my son and everything and stuff. It was weird because my son likes Tony. And Tony gets my son's face. So you're like, I did it to your dad. Now go get your dad. He's like, what the heck just happened? I like that guy though, So,
Yeah.
so did that. Then next 2 months later, I got to hit. It was Tony Vargas versus the late Stephen Bonner, and Tony taught me how to do a chair shot to the back. He taught me that, and he let me hit him in the back, him on his back with a chair, man. And oh man, and Tony had always been patient with me. I tell you, somebody that is patient with wrestlers and let you take your time. Big ugly JD Bishop too.
Oh
Him,
yeah. He's
let's throw him in there. Forgive me, JD gave Jim this. Forgive me for not bringing you up because he's another major part of my in wrestling business because he has so much wisdom.
does. He
And,
does.
yeah, and so got to do that, and then Jason Hastings. He said, "Hey, I want you to." He said, "I want to give you a chance to be. It's called a spiritual advisor for the BLE and up in CWA." I was like, "Okay." And so it's like, it's not a manager because Boss Blackner is the manager, but I'm just a spiritual advisor. So I'm playing a heel pastor.
Right.
And
Nice.
it's so much fun talking crazy to the kids and all they booing me and all this other stuff. I'm over here talking crazy to them and all this stuff. Stay in the child's place. I see your parents didn't raise you right. I'm talking crazy. so
you're
so
you're having fun with it. That's
as a heel, being a heel is so much fun. Oh my goodness. And my brother's a heel now. Young Gunner Chucky D.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Well, listen, hey, I have a couple of questions that I ask everybody that I want to
Sure.
ask you. Okay. So the first one is what do you think is your 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 best or your biggest success in life?
My biggest success in life, I honestly don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know what my big because I just enjoy, go through the motions of life and just trusting God with
Yeah.
everything. And I think wrestling is like the biggest. No, 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 no. It's not wrestling. It's my wife.
Hmm. You got to the right answer there.
That was the perfect answer. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad.
yeah. She's
Get
gonna
that
listen to
person
this
walk
and be
in
like, "You
here.
better say that." Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't walk in here yet, so but I had to get that out quick.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got a good one now, and
Yeah.
just being with her, being with my wife, and I have a great wife.
You do, and it sounds like you
I'm
have an
great.
awesome family too. You're
Oh
so
yeah, yeah. She crazy just like me,
yeah.
and our crazies met real good.
That's what we found for, man, is you gotta find somebody who can match your crazy because everybody's
Yeah,
crazy in some way, you know?
and then you sir. Then another thing with you, I mean, I watch your dad jokes and stuff because it's like when I see you, it's like, dang, I do the same thing with my daughter and my kids. I do certain stuff and joke around or they're always with me. If I go DoorDash on the side, my daughter hangs with me. I'll be up there 2, 3 in the morning doing DoorDash. She's up in the car with me. She's asleep or she's helping out or whatever. But they're always with me. They're
Yeah.
always with me because I had
That's
that relationship with them.
that's the thing, man. I gotta say, like, my kids, I am so grateful for them. They've saved my life in so many ways, and one of the things I was talking to Tito Santana not too long ago.
Tito,
Yeah, yeah, I had him on the podcast a little while back.
man, he
And
was one of my favorite wrestlers.
yeah,
Girls in cars. I'm sorry.
he had mentioned I asked him if he had to do it over again, would he do it the same? And he said no, because he missed so much of his kids' lives. And I thought about my life. I
Ooh.
thought about how I thought I was going to be a pro wrestler when I was 17, 18 years old. I thought I was going to tour with the WWE, all that stuff. And
Hmm.
I would have missed so much. And this time of my life, I mean, you understand, you got kids about the same
Yeah.
age. And this time of my life, having a 16, 14, 12-year old and a 10-year-old, it's watching them. This is my favorite time, watching them become who they're going to become, you know,
Right. Right.
watching, this is where you're finally getting a sense. I'm
Mm,
finally getting a sense of who they're going to be. And they're all going to
yeah.
be so different, but successful in their own ways. And that's just so awesome, you
It's
know?
awesome just to see
So,
it. And you're taking part of it. And I was talking with Pastor Kenneth Johnson, senior, who we call a WWF legend, Slick.
oh,
I
yeah.
know him personally.
Oh,
And
you
they're
do?
yes, I
Nice.
do. Yes, I do.
Oh,
Yes, I
that's
do.
awesome.
If you want to connect you with him, I got you.
Oh, yes, I would. That would be awesome.
Okay,
That'd be great.
I'll reach out to him tomorrow, and I'll get him in contact with you and
Yeah,
everything. Give me
that'd be great.
just inbox me your number, and I'll give it to him.
I will for sure.
Yeah.
Last question I ask everybody, and that is, at one point, we hope, I know it sounds like you've been to a lot of funerals in your life, but one day, you're 40 years from now, you're going to pass away,
Yeah.
and there'll be a eulogy. What do you hope is the one thing that someone says about you in your eulogy?
That I love the people.
Hmm.
That I love the people. That and that I was an example of Jesus Christ. And I'm a lot different, and I'm really not about me. Because
Mhm.
like I said, at the end of after the sermon is preached, they're doing the viewing of the body, and my culture and stuff, they get to falling out uh,
Yeah,
after the food puff food, like
yeah.
Eric, I forgot his name, TNA, when they did the funeral for that I guess that the Aces of Eights Club.
All right.
uh I've got Eric Young. Eric Young was up there acting the fool at the casket. That's a lot of people in my culture. The black culture, they be falling out, passing out and stuff. I didn't see it all. The Academy Awards. I call it the Academy Awards. So,
Man.
anyways, but on a serious note, but and I told my wife, God forbid, no time soon. But is that if something do happen to me, have the viewing at the beginning But at the end, after the message, everybody leave, because the last thing I want people to receive is the word from God,
That's
and
awesome,
leave with that and everything.
man.
It's not about me,
Well,
you know.
here's the thing. This is what I love about having a podcast is I get to learn about people and their stories and learn who they are. And what I can tell about you is you are a good man who loves God
To
and
God be the glory.
loves wrestling. And that's
Oh man,
so
yes sir. I
so
love wrestling. I love my wrestling.
yeah.
You know, I
Well,
got bullied for it.
well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. We'll, I'm gonna have to wrap this up here. But for anybody who's listened, follow Princeton King. Give us the name of your church one more time.
Corinthian Missionary Baptist Church, 71 West Fifth Street in the city of Stockton, California, 95206. Our motto is, "It's a new day." Yes, it is.
Excellent. That's perfect. Perfect.
That's our motto.
That's a dog.
And,
That's a dog whistle to all wrestling fans. Get out there
oh
and
yeah,
get out there and I even though that our faiths are different, I love that you have the faith that you do and love it. I love talking to you, and it's been great for everybody who's listening.
amen.
Please subscribe to the podcast. We still got a lot more stuff coming up. I'm trying to work. We're coming up on a 1-year anniversary. We got a couple of bites on a pretty exciting, possibly an exciting 1-year anniversary guest. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know, no promises, but I got a couple of things brewing. So
Okay.
anyhow, well, thanks, man, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir. It was an honor and a privilege, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.